Presearch, which is a decentralized search engine akin to Google, but without a lot of the other things that come with that, and we can talk about that more, is going to be listed as a default option on new Android devices in the EU, which is interesting because it's actually putting a sort of blockchain-based decentralized search engine as something you can just pick on Google's own, operating system. And, as we talk about all the time on this show, the adoption of decentralized technology is really difficult usually. So even sort of the initial aspects of saying like, hey, this could be listed as a default option, meaning like, one of 12 or whatnot, and people can select it, is a fairly big gate to get into the door on things like Presearch. But Naomi, I want to get your initial thoughts on this one in terms of, why this is an interesting idea, and also why Presearch is an interesting idea more generally.
Yeah, I mean, Presearch has kind of eluded me up until recently. I just did a piece where I was exploring alternative search engines, and I didn't cover Presearch. And all the comments were filled with people saying, what about Presearch? I'm like, oh, is this a new thing? Like, I hadn't really looked in it. So I'm remiss in my duties there. But now I'm kind of like diving deeper into it. I mean, it is the search engine world is really interesting because Google does have 92% share of all searches in the United States. So that's a huge market dominance there. And that means that they can control information that people get access to. There've been all kinds of Senate hearings where they've shown that, Google does influence people by auto-filling in things that they're searching for as well, so they can really manipulate people's thought processes by choosing specific things to autofill. But there's also censorship issues. We had this thing, recently, it's not just with Google, but in the anniversary of Tiananmen Square massacre, we had the image of Tank Man was removed from Bing's search engine. It was just deleted, censored. And because DuckDuckGo uses Bing on the back end for their image search, it was also deleted from DuckDuckGo. So suddenly you start to get a picture of how heavily these search engines rely on each other. Like you have pure search engines, which have their own web crawlers go out and create their own results. Then you have meta search engines, which basically rely on things like Bing and Google and other pure search engines to pull their results. So it's kind of this very incestuous relationship. And then you have these P2P search engines. And it seems like Presearch is one of those. It's kind of something similar to like SeerX, which is this like decentralized model where everything's P2P, but it seems that Presearch has found a way to monetize it, which is very interesting. They have this Ethereum-based pre-token. And that's a very interesting world to me. It kind of is reminiscent of the IPFS world when you had Filecoin becoming the fuel for that system. If you want decentralized storage, suddenly you have a way to incentivize people to hold this data. It seems like Presearch is kind of tapping into that. So I'm very interested to explore this world some more. I have to admit, I don't know a whole lot about it yet. So I'll throw back to you, Ben, for your further thoughts.
Yeah, I've actually interviewed Presearch's founder a few months ago, and they've been around since 2017. They're kind of taking the approach of like build this thing slowly and a little bit carefully because they recognize, just what a behemoth like the Googles of the world are, and just how quickly sort of information indexing can go wrong or just be ineffective in a variety of ways. And so this also, Presearch kind of emerged out of their own sort of kerfuffle with Google, where the founder was like trying to build a local business listings site and Google was downranking it just because they deemed the information low quality, amongst a number of other things. And so, to be clear, like when you use a search index like Google is sort of up-ranking certain things, down-ranking certain things, and like putting its thumb on the scales in a lot of ways in terms of what information it deems to be most valuable. And so the idea of Presearch is you're not having that sort of algorithmic bias show up in a variety of ways, right? Like you're actually just going to have the information fed to you. And that is a really challenging thing, though, to be clear, to like indexing is like super unsexy, but super integral to like building and finding anything on the web. And it's, it's like these standards that I get so excited about sometimes, but nobody else does, in terms of trying to understand how the plumbing on this, on this site, on all the sites of the world work. But Naomi, I'll toss back to you for some closing thoughts.
Yeah, I would just say that when you deal with search engines, like you hit the nail on the head, Ben, when you're talking about the up ranking and down ranking, because people use Google for a reason. They give you the search results. Like they have such a granular insight into who you are as a person. Easy. They can show you what you actually want to see. So when
it's easy to put Google ads at the top result.
Well, when you use these decentralized ones, because I've tested a whole bunch in the past month, the research results are not as good. And let's be honest. So there are trade-offs with these, but it's definitely the direction we're moving towards in society. And I'm so happy to see more and more decentralized products